Hey guys, Griffin Oni here. Before we get started with today's video, I have another nickname suggestion from you all in the comments. Today's nickname has been suggested by UberDan9254, and he has suggested the nickname Athlete for our Suicune. This is in reference to the fact that Suicune is one of two Pokemon in the entire game that has potential to have perfect stats in the Pokeathlon. So thank you very much, UberDan. Also, as some of you may have noticed during episode 30, I caught a multitude of Pokemon at the Safari Zone during the bio montage that I did not directly address. Here in front of you is all the Pokemon that I caught in the last episode that I did not request a nickname for. Any one of these Pokemon are up for grabs, so if you want to recommend a nickname for any of the Pokemon that you see on screen right here, feel free to recommend a nickname to any one of them in the comments. But with that said, let's go ahead and begin the episode. Hey guys, Griffin Oni here, and welcome back to Pokemon HeartGold. Last time, we went over the routes 47 and 48 in an effort to make it to the Safari Zone, and then we thoroughly explored everything that we can do in the Safari Zone for now. We also went over a bunch of Pokemon that we can catch in the Safari Zone, though we are going to have to wait until the expansion to the Safari Zone happens before we can actually catch some of them. So, for now, we're going to focus back on the plot and the various things that we need to do. And so now that we have pretty much thoroughly explored everything that there is to do west of Ecruteak City, now we're going to focus on what goes on east of Ecruteak. We briefly went over this way before, but now we're really going to dive deep into everything that can be done east of Ecruteak City. So welcome back once again to Route 42. Route 42, Ecruteak City to Mahogany Town. Down here, there's a select handful of trees that are just kind of there to block the way. There really isn't anything to it. And right here is Mount Mortar, Waterfall Cave inside. Now, we will be exploring Mount Mortar today, but I actually want to go into the water first before we do anything else. And the reason why will become apparent. However, before we go any further, I am going to point out that I do have Fun Guy in the party with me. When you go through Route 42 for the first time, I highly recommend that you bring a Pokemon that has the move Cut. And why that is will become pretty apparent very shortly. But just keep it in mind. These Goldeen are aggressive today. Okay, so this is why I wanted to come over here, because there is a certain Pokemon that's kind of sitting around here, standing right behind this tree. And if you want to interact with it, you're gonna have to use Cut. And I do highly recommend that you do this. You will seriously regret it later if you do not. So, hello, Suicune, once again. Oh, it shoved us out of the way. Hello, Suicune. Good to see you again. Suicune, how brave it is. How refreshing it is. How beautiful it is. And how quickly it moves. Griffin, you seem to be around where Suicune would appear. Well, that's okay. My desire to search for Suicune is far beyond yours. My grandpa was quite into myths. I've heard so many stories about Suicune from him. I won't stop following until I've found out what you're after. You hear me? Okay, well, we know that Suicune is very persistent. But regardless, even if you don't necessarily want to go after Suicune from here, I do highly recommend doing a Cut because you get access to 3 more apricorns, a yellow, green, and a pink apricorn, and they are very much worth your time. All right, that takes care of all 3 apricorns. Now, there is another item over here I want to grab. Got a super potion. Very useful. Now, I could serve over here, and that would pretty much be the end of this route. But obviously, like I said, we do want to go through everything that I want to do here. So, for us to do everything else, we're going to need to get a Pokemon with the move Strength. So, I'm going to go to the Pokemon Center and grab Dwayne from the PC so we can proceed on the correct way. In between cuts, my mother called me and indicated that there was something for us at the Pokemart. So, let's see what we have today. Let's see, Griffin, isn't it? I have a package for your mom. Here you go. We obtained the Hyper Potion. All right, that's pretty useful. Anything else? No, that's it, but that's plenty. Hyper Potion's very useful. All right, I've gotten Dwayne out from the PC, and he is out the front right now. And the reason why I have Dwayne out front at the moment is because if you interact with a Raw-type Pokemon in front of Mount Mortar, there should be an interesting little bit of dialogue that Raw-type Pokemon specifically say. Dwayne is looking up at the tall mountain. Yes. So he does acknowledge the tall mountain, and he actually, I believe there's a bit of dialogue that indicates that he wants to climb it. Raise the mountain as if anticipating climbing it. Yes, so that will only happen if you interact with a raw-type Pokemon in front of this mountain. A little bit of, well, a bit of a tip that I got from Lyra before I started, so it's good to know. But with all the preparations out of the way, let's head on in to Mount Mortar. Welcome to Mount Mortar. Hello, Suicune. Nice thing about this particular mountain is that you are able to find wild Pokemon here. Hello, Machop. Okay, no, but seriously, before we get into the nitty-gritty of Mount Mortar, there is actually, in fact, one new Pokemon that we need to cover. Found only on the first floor of Mount Mortar a whopping 1% of the time is Meryl, the original Pikachu clone and icon of one of the most memorable PokeTuber channels out there. Now, you look at this Pokemon and think to yourself, really? Base 20 attack and special attack? Even Suicune hits harder. And you would be right. Meryl's base attack sets are horrible, and unfortunately they don't get much better once Meryl evolves into a Azumarill at level 18. It does have great HP and decent defenses, but it won't be that helpful if it doesn't have a good attack stat. And you would be right to think that. But Meryl and Azumarill have a secret weapon. They have one of the most powerful signature abilities in the game. Huge power. This ability straight up doubles their base attack. So while Azumarill may only have base 50 attack on the surface, in reality, it's operating with a base 100 attack, which is great, especially now that we have the physical special split, which allows Meryl and Azumarill to hit hard with physical water attacks. That is if it got more than Aqua Tail. Yeah, some of you may be familiar with how Azumarill can operate really well with certain other moves in its moveset, namely Belly Drum to maximize its attack and Aqua Jet, a physical water type attack with high priority to enable Azumarill to sweep teams. And while it is capable of learning those moves, it is only possible through breeding with other Pokemon that have those moves. So the reality of using Meryl and Azumarill is that they can hit hard, but without sufficient breeding, they lack the tools required to be successful with their stats and abilities. We will eventually get another HM in the future that will somewhat make this concern a moot point. But for now, you will need to operate with those constraints if you wish to raise a Meryl, as most of its level up moves are either not water or not physical. Also worth pointing out, as with other Pokemon, no members of Meryl's evolution line are part fairy type in this game, as the type has not been introduced as of this point in the series. But more importantly, Meryl does have a baby Pokemon in the form of Azurill. If you wish to breed an Azurill, you need to breed Meryl while it is holding the Sea Incense, which is, as some of you probably saw coming, not available until the post-game. I look forward to the day where I no longer need to preface that. Also, fun fact, due to the inconsistent gender ratio of Azurill and Meryl, 1/3 of all female Azurill become male when they evolve. It's a hilarious oversight that persists to this day. So now that we have gotten Meryl's bio out of the way, we're going to go right over here and find another Hyper Potion inside the rock. Now we have two. Very nice. And we're going to explore Mount Mortar. Now, there isn't a whole lot to do on this first area, aside from, again, obviously trying to find Meryl. Well, holy that didn't take long. Seriously, it's a 1% encounter rate. I am the luckiest mother hecker. All right, Meryl has been caught. I cannot believe how easily we found Meryl. I honestly didn't think I was actually going to be able to find this thing today, but we'll take it. Meryl, the Aquamouse Pokemon. The tip of its tail, which contains oil that is lighter than water, lets it swim without drowning. So it has oil in its tail? Oh no, here comes the American government. Anyway, if you would like to give a nickname to Meryl, feel free to recommend one in the comments. I definitely didn't think we were going to find one. I really sincerely didn't think it was going to happen. Anyway, now that we've gotten that little deal out of the way, let's head on into the kind of meat and potatoes of this area, because there's a lot here. At least as far as things to do. I just need to be sure that I explore every room thoroughly. Okay, so we're going to head this way. There's another exit here, but I want to go ahead and use strength here. This is the main reason I brought Dwayne. because in order to fully explore everything that there is to do in Mount Mortar, you do need to have a Pokemon with the HM Strength. I don't believe you need Rock Smash, but you do absolutely need Strength if you want to cover everything. Well, at least everything we can do at the immediate moment. There's another Ultra Ball. All right, so we're going to head down this way. So I actually do have a couple of fun facts about Mount Mortar. So in the Japanese version, oh my god, a Max Potion? Seriously? God, that is really unnecessary, especially at this point in the game. Max Potion, I don't think we've gotten this item before. Max Potion basically fully restores your HP. It's not the full restore item, because full restore fully restores your HP and also heals all status conditions, but a Max Potion will just fully restore your HP. Anyway, in the Japanese version of this particular game, this location is referred to as Mount Suribachi. Coincidentally, in real life, there is an actual Mount Suribachi in Iwo Jima. However, based on the relative location of where Johto is with respect to the real Mount Mortar, it's meant to be more likely based on another mountain called Mount Hiei in Shinga. And no, it's not the Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho, I think. I do believe we have a trainer that we can fight up here, provided I cannot get interrupted by wild Pokemon. Alright, my guy, what do you got? Hey, huh! Did you say huh or Hugh? Let's see. Okay, Super Nerd Marcus, so I guess not. Fortunately, I have Shadow Claw to deal with slowpokes like you. I mistook you for someone else. Okay, so you thought I was Hugh. Got it. I can't explore Mount Mortar, but I got separated from my partner. Did you run to a trainer who uses a Seadra? That Seadra is really good at using Waterfall. Interesting. A neat little hint that we'll want to keep in mind for later. Okay, we're going to head back over here because there is another item that we need to get. An escape rope. That is going to be very useful. So next I want to go up here. As you can see, there are some more platforms that we're not going to be able to get to in our first visit because they're rock climby, scaly things that we've seen before. But you do want to remember them for later. We are going to be coming back to Mount Mortar in a future episode once we do have the ability to scale these particular slides. Okay, so we're going to head down here. There's another item for us to grab. Okay. Oh, come on! Okay, come on. There we go. We found a nugget. Okay, so that covers everything that we can do in this particular segment of Mount Mortar. There are some other things that we can do over here. There's a ladder right here. I don't want to go to that right this second. I want to deal with this trainer first. I'm not losing this time. Well, I have very, very unfortunate news for you, my guy. Especially with only 2 Pokemon. Oh, wow, Nidoking. That is impressive. It's not the most unusual thing to find, considering its level, but still. So anyway, more trivia about Mount Mortar specifically. In the Japanese version of the anime, Casey, one of the more memorable side characters from the Johto days, actually had a reference to Mount Mortar. Those of you who remember her may recall that she often sang the theme song for the Electabuzz baseball team. And in the Japanese version, Mount Mortar is explicitly referenced in the first line of the song. It's a neat way to kind of integrate the land where the team comes from. Right here we're seeing a Nidoqueen for the first time as well. Again, finding Nidoking and Nidoqueen at this particular stage is not all that ridiculous. Because again, once you evolve a Nidoran into Nidorino or Nidorina, it is theoretically possible to go straight into both their next evolutions, but it's still somewhat weird to see them this low leveled. Anyway, Hogan grew level 27 because he is awesome. I lost to some kid? No, you lost to the kid. A while back, this karate guy went into battle. He was ridiculously good. He just thrashed me silly. He said something about training and went in deeper. I wonder why. We'll want to remember that for later because he is not just spouting nonsense. There is a karate man in here we're going to want to remember later on. But as I said, there's a limited amount of stuff that we can do in Mount Mortar for the time being. We're going to go up this ladder next. I know there was a whole other ladder that we could access, but I do want to be sure that I cover everything. So we're going to go down here, find a revive. Very useful item. Oh, I had a repel up earlier. Now, despite the fact that there is water here, we're not actually able to surf on it. We're still on somewhat of a higher plane with respect to the water, so we're not quite able to get to it right now. It was similar to the water that we found on Route 48, if you want to make a comparison. So I think I'm going to go ahead and head on over to the other ladder and see what all there is from there. So I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, back up here, there is this ladder that we did not properly explore earlier. And now we're in the other end of Mount Mortar that we still cannot surf on, but there is still something we can get here. All right, let's see what we got. Ether. Equally useful as a revive. Okay, so that covers everything that we can get in this specific room and the ladders above. As you saw earlier, there were other things that we could potentially get, but we still do not have the ability to fully explore this room for now. So we're going to want to remember this place for later, but for now we're going to have to head out through the other cave here. And that brings us out on the other side of the water here. So we're going to head out this way, and I want to double check to make sure there aren't any other hidden items here, because there were in the other segment of the, relative entrance, so let me be certain. Okay, so no, there wasn't really anything that we can get, at least not at the immediate moment. But I do want to end our time here at Mount Mortar today on one particular note, because there is one other thing I did not mention. While not explicitly mentioned in this game, in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, one of the more prominent minerals that makes up this cave is pitchstone. And considering who wrote the note that indicated such, I have a feeling they know what they're talking about when it comes to stones. It obviously doesn't mean anything from a practical gameplay standpoint, but it's nice to see that Game Freak add these little details just for the sake of world building. So, yeah, the whole cave is made of pitchstone. Good to know. Now let's head out. And now we're back here on another end of Route 42. Now, I would love to fight all the trainers that are over here, but I've completed my time in Mount Mortar, and I also don't have Akira in the party. So I'm going to go grab him, and then I'll head right back here so we can deal with the trainers here and talk about a new Pokemon that we can find here. Okay, so in between cuts, I realized that I've royally screwed up. We are actually not quite done with Mount Mortar, because we exited through an entrance that was over to the east, and we entered in through an entrance that's to the west, but then there is this entrance in the middle. And there actually is more to do in Mount Mortar through this middle entrance. So my apologies. Let's press on in the middle segment of Mount Mortar. I promise we will cover what is going on in Route 42, but we do need to cover this. So, first of all, in this segment, this is how you will access the water via surf. You cannot do it through the east or the west entrance, but you can do it through the middle one. So we're going to head over here, and you'll notice that there is yet another waterfall here. A wall of water is crashing down with a mighty roar. So this is yet another obstacle that we're going to need to kind of put off exploring for now. There isn't a whole lot we can do with this waterfall later, but you do want to remember this, because once we do the ability to do something about this waterfall, there will be more to do in Mount Mortar. Yes, we are in fact going to have multiple repeat visits to this place. That said, there is still another ladder in the middle here that we can go down, which leads us to a whole other room that we are able to explore, at least a little bit. So we're going to go on here and once again surf our way through the rooms and see what all we can find. Okay, so as I was saying, we're going to head up here and we're going to get this. This is the full restore. Finally. Not that we really need it right now, though. So now we're going to head back onto the water and we're going to explore more of this room, because there should be more for us to access aside from the full restore. So over to the right over here, there's yet another item we can get. Max Ether. I believe that fully restores the power points of any one move. And now we'll head down here and then back up here, and that will net us another Hyper Potion. We got 3 Hyper Potions today. All through very unconventional and inconsistent means. I do believe there's a little more we can do over here if we have Strength. All right, back onto this shore. We'll use Strength one more time. Thank God I put Dwayne back in the party. Oh. So we can't actually do anything with Strength on this end. This is for the other side. Okay. We'll want to remember that for later then. if that is actually the case. Okay, and on this shore, there is a PP up. Very, very, very useful item. I'm sorry about all the wild Pokemon encounters. I know they can be annoying, but trust me, there is a reason I'm doing it. There is a reason I'm not putting up repels all the time, and I hope one day that it will pay off. But clearly it's not today. So we're gonna head down here, and I do believe there's more we can do over on this end. So surf one more time. And right here is the last item, I believe. Carbos. Very useful. I believe Carbos boosts speed. So that's going to be useful when raising Pokemon that you want extremely high speed effort values in. Well, it's on my mind. I'm going to go ahead and use the Carbos straight away, and I'm going to give it to Cirrus and boost her base speed. I'm also going to go ahead and boost Mizumoto's base HP with the HP up that I got. Okay, and that covers everything that we can actually do in Mount Mortar properly. I'm sorry for the weird, awkward cuts there, but it is what it is. But now we really have covered everything there is to do in Mount Mortar. So let me go to the Pokemon Center one more time, get Akira in the party, and then we will explore Route 42 properly. So back over here on Route 42, close to where we exited Mount Mortar on the east, there is this particular item right up here. We're not going to be able to get that right now because, as you can see, it's locked behind a rock climby surface once again. But I do want to point that out as something that you want to try to work for later, because trust me, it's very much worth your time to get. God damn it. Okay. All the preamble has been dealt with. We have covered everything in Mount Mortar, actually this time. And there are some trainers that we can fight around 42 while we talk about a new Pokemon. So let's get into it. Let me demonstrate the power of the Pokemon I caught. So, on Route 42, if you're playing Pokemon HeartGold, you can find... Wait. A pig? A monkey? Nope, it's Mankey. This Pokemon is another case of a glass bayonet. Only now, it can punch people. It can hit decently hard straight away with its high attack and decent speed to start off with. It learns a myriad of fighting type moves through level up, including Karate Chop, Seismic Toss, Close Combat, and Cross Chop, a very rare move that Mankey only shares with the Machop line. It also has the very rare ability Anger Point, an ability that raises its attack by 6 stages if it is hit with a critical hit, which, while out of your control, can be very helpful in the right situation. I know from personal experience that this thing can easily sweep an entire team if its Anger Point is triggered. And once Mankey evolves into Primeape at level 28, it gets even better attack stat at base 105 and 95 speed, allowing it to blast through teams even faster. Plus, while Primeape doesn't get the most coverage out of its level up moves, its compatibility with Rock, Ground, Bug, and Poison moves via TM, and even more coverage through move tutors, make this a versatile threat. Primeape is the only pure fighting type that can even learn Seed Bomb via move tutor. That said, it is still a glass bayonet. It can absolutely dish out the hurt, but it cannot take it. I wouldn't say it's as frail as, say, Dodrio, but you still want to be careful about what you put it up against. If you liked what you saw with Machop, but wanted a fast fighting type sweeper, Mankey is absolutely the Pokemon for you. Also, fun fact, well, sort of. According to an official novelization of the anime called Pocket Monsters, the animation, Primeape is actually the reason why Pokeballs were developed. This statement, of course, has been explicitly contradicted multiple times since, especially in Pokemon Legends Arceus, where Primeape doesn't even appear, but still, it's nice to get credit, even if it's completely unearned. Oh, and for those of you who are curious, Mankey is the version-exclusive Pokemon that we get in HeartGold with respect to Meowth, which is in Soul Silver. Okay, so that takes care of all the trainers that we can find on Route 42. Nothing particularly interesting happened during these fights, but that's why I sped it up real quick, just so we can talk about Mankey. So now that we have gotten that out of the way, let's explore the grass a little bit and see if we can't find ourselves a Mankey, shall we? Mareep is not what I meant to find. But it's good to see the Mareeps here. There we go. Okay, so Raido's getting a little too powerful to be inflicting conventional damage, so I'm gonna have to find another way to do this. Okay, I found another Mankey. We're gonna try a different approach this time. Because evidently Headbutt is proven to be a little too much for the weaker Pokemon. Quick Attack, however, is not. Alright, there we go. Mankey has been caught. Mankey, the pig monkey Pokemon. It is extremely ill-tempered. Groups of them will attack any handy target for no reason. If you'd like to give a nickname to this Mankey that I've caught, feel free to recommend one in the comments. And I think on that note, we're going to end things right here. It may seem weird for me to just kind of arbitrarily end at the end of a route right before we go into the next area, but trust me when I say, next time on Pokemon HeartGold, my reasons will become apparent as to why. See you guys then.